Production funding for Ruckus has been provided by Fred and Lou Hartwig and viewers like you. Thank you.
That's what.
Good evening. Welcome to Ruckus, that weekly food for thought fight over the news of the day and the trends of the times. I'm Mike Shannon. The Ruckettes join me shortly, and our topics tonight: the Star makes a sly endorsement, Ted Cruz sets sail for 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and in Johnson County, the restoration of King Louis. And that's where we start with our Newsmaker segment. To save the iconic landmark, the Johnson County Commission purchased the King Louis Bowling Alley and Skating Rink on Metcalf for about $2 million in 2011. It's taken until 2015 for commissioners to decide what to do with it. The decision is a $22 million renovation to establish the Johnson County Arts and Heritage Center. As expected, not everyone thinks this is the best use of county money. And one of those is former Johnson County Commission Chair Annabeth Serbaugh, who was first elected in 1992 and 10 years later became the first person ever elected county chair under the new Home Rule Charter. She served in that position for 8 years, and Annabeth Serbaugh joins us now. It is good to see you again.
Good to see you, Mike.
Thank you for accepting our invitation and coming in. You're quoted as saying you think the money, the $22 million or so, could have been better spent on a new county courthouse.
Well, the money, it's not just the money, it's the process that this was done in, but the money is not $22 million. By the time you pay the debt service over the 20 years, it's a $30 million project. Now, that wouldn't put a dent in a courthouse, but a courthouse is really needed. Ever since 9/11, the whole public buildings have another mix. The traditional courthouse building now has one tower that is where prisoners or people who are on trial, and the other, the public come in and they meet in the middle in courtrooms, which can be made totally secure. Additionally, that building is old, the courthouse. We put so much money into repairing it, and it still has asbestos, it has ADA issues. It just there needs to be a new courthouse.
Did this King Louis issue come up while you were still in office?
No. No, I would have never bought the building. I think that's another issue. They actually have put in $5.6 million. As soon as they bought it, they had to restore it.
One of the commissioners, Steve Klicka, originally voted against the idea, then changed his mind and finally voted for it. It was a very close vote, I think, decided by one commissioner. And he has said, well, the people of Johnson County I talked to just want to get past this and move on. Do you find that to be the case? People want to get past this and move on? Not
really. Actually, I have not talked to a single citizen, and it's funny how people don't keep up with local government. I had people call and complain to me about buying this building. You know, hey, guys, I've been long gone. I wasn't even a thought of while I was there. I just don't hear any. I have not heard anyone say anything good about it. If they wanted to get on, they are sick of reading about it.
Yeah. Well, do you see no value in this structure being saved? It was indeed iconic, was it not?
They call it iconic. I call it vintage. Iconic to me is Union Station, Kauffman Center.
So you don't think it's iconic, but do you see any value in
No.
it being saved and an arts and heritage center being established?
I guess while I was on the commission, we went through purchasing too many old buildings. We had the Gardner Airport, we restored them, took them down. It always ends up being more money than you think. Whatever the highest estimate is, you're going to double it. And to me, I understand how they got in the pickle, because they've been looking for a museum site forever. The museum, there's no doubt that the museum needs to move. The building has stone walls, it's wet. They've had to move most of their stuff to storage. And so they do need a new museum, and I'm all for that. I just think they could have found a better place. But this was reduced very quickly, and they got anxious, and they bought it within a month. But the first time the public heard about this, they owned it within a month. And I think that sometimes, people will forgive you for the product, but never the process. The process has been so convoluted in this.
So, but it's a done deal now, is it not?
Well,
there's not going to be overturned.
Well, they
by
have to have
anyone.
one more vote to fund it, but I think that's assured.
Well, let me take a moment of our time and ask you about Johnson County in general. From your informed perspective, you were in public service a lot of years. I know you're still interested. What are 2 or 3 major problems that you see in Johnson County other than this new Heritage and Arts Center? Well,
I think the first thing I would say is, and I think this is not just in Johnson County, I still have commissioner friends across the country, there is a major effort on behalf of state governments to try to run local governments via, there have been legislators come speak at budget public hearings since I left. And they're also taking the funds away from local government. And so I think one of the biggest issues for all local governments, not just Johnson County, is trying to maintain your presence in the community and your funding base, because we contribute greatly to the state.
Do you think that's happening in Topeka, an effort to take over a lot of the functions in Johnson County?
It's not like it's a planned awful thing. It's just that they run short of money and they go looking.
Final question, do you miss being on the county commission?
I miss seeing the people, the employees particularly, and the public, and doing things like this. But I found a whole new life, and I'm really happy. I said the night that I lost the election, I told the people that were there, I said, you know, this is the fourth time that what I wanted in my life didn't happen. And every other time what happened was so much better than what I wanted, and that's what's happened.
And you always wanted to be on Ruckus, and now that dream has been fulfilled.
Well, I was thinking last night, you know, I don't have to do this stuff anymore when I was collecting my thoughts.
I'm glad you did come in. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Mike.
That is former Johnson County Commission Chair Annabeth Serbaugh. Now let's go start a ruckus. Yael Abahaka is an editorial writer at the Kansas City Star. Gwen Grant is president and CEO of the Kansas City Urban League. Mary O'Halloran is a media and communications consultant, and attorney Steve Marakian is with the law firm of Warsh, Hobbs, and Marakian. Well, let's stay in what used to be called the Golden Ghetto, Johnson County, and talk more about the future plans for the King Louie facility. Once a popular bowling alley and skating rink, King Louie was sold in 2009. 2 years later, the county commission bought the structure for $2 million. Then a chaotic period of debate as commissioners battled until a few weeks ago trying to find a use for the building they could support. The Johnson County Arts and Heritage Center will ostensibly be used to house the county museum and provide space for artists and theater groups. It will also be a location for advance voting. The cost to renovate estimated at $22 million or more. So, Mary, as a Johnson County resident, what do you think of this decision?
Well, I think that I agree with your previous interviewee. That was an excellent interview with Annabeth. I agree with her wholeheartedly. It's one of these things where it's backwards. And ordinarily, good government proceeds by people looking at a need, and then they get their best citizens together and figure out how they can find a way to satisfy that need without undue costs and trouble. This thing is going to cost a lot of money, and it was done too quickly. You know, we have a building that is iconically ugly. I just have to say that the entrance to Johnson County, I mean, to think what they could have done with that site at 87th and Metcalf. Metcalf's a very important street from now and forever. We're going to be looking at that thing if the money actually gets appropriated by the Johnson County. I also just think they started stuffing things into it and hoping it all fits. Now, the arts community in Johnson County is growing considerably, and of course, they like it because finally it will have a place, and so do the museum people. But the politics of this was backwards.
Yeah, what do you think?
I think I disagree with almost everything Mary said. It's not the entrance to Johnson County. Second of all, it's a great-looking building that will have you'll look back and go, oh, yeah, that was a period of time in Johnson County. They'll restore it, and in 5 years, the arts groups that did put together a plan for this thing, it did not get rushed through. They spent a lot of time looking at it. Yes, there is a need for having a new museum home, and yes, you can, in Mary's words, they shoehorned it in here. Here, I think they found a great place for it. Hey, the entrance of Johnson County. They're going to have a great art facility there. So in 5 years, when it has been rehabbed, and when we hope it's successful, it'll be a lot like Union Station is today. Wow, I'm glad we saved it. I'm glad there are good reuses for it. And hey, that's not a bad use of $30 million of money over 20 years in Johnson County.
Steve, I have the sense, and just based on nothing but my feelings, that down the road, after this is established and in operation for a few years, people will feel more warmly about it than they seem to now.
Oh, I think that'll happen. That typically does happen, but I disagree with Yael. I understand his point, and it is, you can call it iconic, you can call it vintage, whatever you want. I call it ugly. I don't think it's a building, in my view. It is not the kind of history of Johnson County that we need to spend $22 to $30 to $35 million in order to have an art center. We could build a very nice art center, a performing arts center. We don't need this for advance voting. So I look at it and say to myself, it is not Union Station. It's not some historical building in Johnson County that people always identify Johnson County with. I don't think it's a good expenditure of money, and I'm not in favor of it.
Is there a shortage of places people go to vote in advance of the election in
Absolutely.
Johnson
Yeah,
County?
we have so many buildings. I mean, Matt Ross is right down the street, and
Yeah, well, the
it's
whole thing just sounds like a hodgepodge of stuff, like an afterthought. We're going to save it, so let's just throw some stuff in here. We're going to have some art stuff in here. We're going to have some voting in here. Who else can we get to come? Okay, let's just throw some stuff in here and do it. And I agree with Steve. The building is an ugly building, and it's not. It doesn't bring any artistic value in my perspective. You see it, it's just.
Do you ever
I agree with
practice in
Annabeth as
the
well.
Johnson County Courthouse, Steve? You ever
Absolutely,
show up there?
and I agree with Annabeth, but I think what they should do is renovate the courthouse by putting in a huge, massive lawyer's lounge. That's really the most
Right.
important thing.
That's
No, it does need
lawyer's
renovation.
lounge.
It's a nice courthouse in many respects, but it is very, very old.
And they won't, and Annabeth kind of touched on this, but they won't spend the money to either make the big decision of, well, we're going to build a whole darn new courthouse, or we're going to, renovate and all that kind of stuff. And so this is a secondary project. I just really don't understand the hatred toward this building as far as the looks go, because I think it is something that is very unusual. And even if you think it's ugly, there are many ugly buildings in Kansas City that we've tried to save over the years because they are part of the history. And that is definitely a part of the history of Johnson
I
County.
kind of share your attitude.
Thank you very much.
I have some fond recollections of the
Sorry,
King
but
Louis.
You know what?
Thank you.
Saving a Union Station and then saving a bowling alley and
my.
skating rink,
Right.
and
I agree
making
with
that
Ben.
historic, seriously?
Not exactly the same
Yeah,
thing.
They're not exactly the same.
Yeah.
They're all-
Yale, you missed
Both,
the boat.
both clearly iconic.
Missed the boat.
In what was probably not the hardest decision the Kansas City Star editorial board has ever made, it endorsed Mayor Sly James, Kansas City mayor, for a second term. Also running for mayor is the virtually unknown Vincent Lee and the too well-known Clay Chastain. In backing James, the Star talks of his second-term agenda, which includes, but is not limited to, passing an infrastructure bond issue, improving the No Violence Alliance, NOVA, attacking Eastside economic and transit problems, extending the streetcar line, completing the KCI renovation project, and getting a downtown hotel deal. Certainly a lot on his plate. Is this a reasonable agenda, Yale?
Well, I think it is a reasonable agenda. I keep pointing out to people that Manuel Cleaver in his first term, Kay Barnes in her first term, both of them didn't get a lot done. They frankly did not. And that's a little bit why they had hard re-elections. They both got re-elected, and both Cleaver and Barnes in their second terms were guns a-blazing and did a great job for Kansas City. If Sly James does that after what he's done the first term, which I think has been far more than middling first term, then this city will be in really good shape. Everything you just mentioned there, probably except for the convention hotel, I think is quite doable, quite possible. The KCI one will obviously be a heavy lift depending on what they come up with from the airlines. But having a less violent city, having a better airport, having a revived east side with some new housing, things like that. Now that's, again, a long-term project. And also continued growth in Northland, which is one of the things he continues to talk about. We have to keep thinking about this as one city. So all of the top priorities that the mayor has, and he's going to work with the city council on, the city staff, and the business community, are pretty positive. And that's why I did sit through very quickly. I sat through the mayoral forum last Tuesday night, and the first 1 minute was okay, and the last 89 were kill me now, because you basically had to listen to Clay Chastain and Vincent Lee, who have no clue how to run a city, absolutely no clue. They have no business being in this race, and that's sad. I mean, I'd love to see one of the actually qualified city council members, Ed Ford, Russ Johnson, running against James, given another vision for the city's future. So that's where we are. I hope the mayor gets elected, and in 4 years, if he's done what he said he's going to do, that would be, I think it would be very good for the city.
Gwen, what about economic and transit problems on the east side the mayor plans to attack?
Yeah, I think that's an important agenda item for the mayor in the next term, and we want to see some economic development of the Prospect Corridor, and that should be on the top of the list. I mean, because we've done a lot of investment throughout the city. We can't keep ignoring the inner city. And economic development in the Prospect Corridor is what people on the east side want to see.
What would be the second agenda item you would think would be among the most important?
Well, I think the airport project is important, but for me, economic development number one. The NOVA, the crime prevention thing, is also very important, and that's moving along. So I don't know that he has to really elevate that because there's so many other resources applied to that. He should really focus more on infrastructure and transportation.
Yeah, Mary, what about this idea of an infrastructure bond issue?
An infrastructure bond issue, well, if it's connected in any way with getting a new hotel downtown that's convention ready, I'm for it. By the way, on that issue, which is it's sort of at the end of everyone's list, even the mayor's, I noticed, if the mayor could promise that there will be no more promises made about the city's involvement in paying for a major development of that sort, like we did for Power and Light, then I think he could be elected forever in the city.
Yeah, and that's what they're aiming for, Mary.
I'm sorry?
That is what they're aiming for, is a project that has no city funds.
But who knows whether it'll happen or not. Also,
Steve, you work downtown Kansas City, Missouri. Of those items I listed that the mayor has on his agenda for a second term, which two are probably the most important from your perspective?
Well, from my, from an individual perspective, I like the infrastructure. I think that's critically important, particularly in the area where I work, maintaining the sewers and roads and so forth, getting in and out of the city. However, and then the downtown hotel, I think is very important in terms of continuing vitalization of the area around which I work, in the entertainment district and the convention center and so forth. However, I think Gwen's approach is the one that I think is the most important. I think the continued expansion of economic development, particularly on the east side, and providing better transportation, better job opportunities, better infrastructure for businesses out there. We have an entire segment of our community that essentially has been ignored for 50 years. And if the mayor can pull it together, God bless him. I think he's doing a good job, and nobody else is really interested in doing it.
Before we leave the mayor, you had a very interesting column this Thursday morning in the Star about Mayor James and Freedom Inc. Can you summarize that for us quickly?
Yeah, I mean, it basically goes back to a dispute he had last year with Freedom Incorporated, the black political group. And Gwen is one of the top 3 leaders of it. But one of the things that he was upset about was the advertising campaign that was used against the streetcar. He was for it. Freedom was against it. And it used this Jim Crow ad, which he thought was beneath the dignity of freedom, and also a personal attack on him as a black man, basically, and his other supporters too, also on the east, and some supporters on the east side. So the more I talked to him about it, the little bit more educated he got, and I got a good quote from him, and then I got a better quote from him. But I think his point is we need to work together. Gail Holiday, I had a good conversation with her, and she said, yes, we agree. The prospect thing is very important. As Gwen said, we're going to work together on that. And again, in 4 years, some of the stuff is done. I disagree with Steve. The East Side has not been ignored. There are just so many problems there that they are tough.
Gwen, are you
I live in the East Side.
Gwen,
And
are
we
you
have to leave no sector behind.
Are you the dissident leader at Freedom?
Dissident leader?
That he was talking about.
No, she's
freedom
a
now,
third leader.
freedom forever.
By the way, you can watch a live webcast of the mayor's State of the City address. You'll see Yale waving in the audience, I suspect, next Tuesday morning at 11 on kcpt.org. Well, there's a real Kansas City connection to the announcement earlier this week that Texas Senator Ted Cruz, a conservative firebrand, is officially running for the GOP presidential nomination. Working on his campaign, as he has done for several months, is Kansas City and Jeff Rowe, founder of Axiom Strategies and a well-known and successful political consultant. Rowe is, from time to time, a panelist here on Ruckus, defending the conservative point of view. Cruz is the first of many who will be announcing a bid for the Republican presidential nomination. Let's talk about Cruz, a graduate of Princeton and Harvard Law School, now in his first term in the Senate. Let's start with his strengths. What does he bring to the table, Steve?
I think there are 4 strengths for the Republican Party, and I don't think he'll get the nomination, but I think these are strengths he has. He is clearly a brilliant man. There's no question about his intellectual capabilities. He is a great debater, particularly in nuanced issues. He's established that in international debate competitions. He would bring together the Republican base and energize it for the first time since Ronald Reagan. The argument has always been we don't have a true conservative Republican, and he would energize the Republican Party base like no one has in years. To that extent, he's a polarizing figure, which is what a lot of Republicans want. And lastly, unlike John McCain and some of the others, he doesn't have the baggage of a history of 30 years of voting in the Senate and voting in the Congress and so forth. So he's sort of a new figure, and he can call himself an outsider, much as Barack Obama did.
Yeah. All right, what about his weaknesses?
Well, the weaknesses are mostly, in my view, external, in the sense that the Republican Party establishment detests him, and they'll do everything they can.
And why do they detest him? Because he did the filibuster.
Well, it's that and other things. They know he'll be branded, and this is the second
It
weakness.
caused the government shutdown. That's one of the reasons.
I understand, but he'll be branded. He'll be branded as an extremist. He will. These issues will be raised. The Republican Party people like Karl Rove and so forth, they want your standard, traditional, mainstream, old line Republican like John McCain.
He branded himself as an
Hang on,
extremist.
Mary.
And so he will not get the kind of money and funding he needs to get when people like George Bush are grabbing off all that money. Jeb Bush, I'm sorry. Secondly, he is in fact a polarizing figure, and there are many Republicans who would say, we won't get independent votes, we don't want a polarizing figure. Those are his weaknesses.
Well, he didn't just, I don't know how exactly you put it. It seems to me you changed the meaning in the middle of the sentence, but when he did that
That's the trick a
filibuster as a
lawyer knows.
freshman, he'd been there about 60 days, was it? I don't know, maybe 90 days, and he decides that he's going to do this iconic, he thought was used
Vintage.
incorrectly then too. And he really is the most hated figure in the U.S. Senate. And I think one of the things when you look for somebody to support for president, you look for them being maybe a unifying figure or somebody that people feel some affection for or connection to. He is not a conservative. He's sort of a Brown-backian, radical extremist. There isn't anybody to the right of this guy. I mean, he's out there. Just because he graduated from Princeton doesn't mean that he's a conservative in the way we usually think of it. And I just find him, he has a case of hubris that won't stop. I mean, it doesn't care. I don't care what his IQ is. My God, this country is going to have a leader with experience.
Gail, what does it tell us about Ted Cruz that he has selected among his many advisors and strategists Jeff Rowe?
That he has very bad taste, and I still can't believe that Ruckus allows him on the show. Jeff Rowe is, one of those political guys who really is a slash and burn person who does not, he does not think of what is the actual outcome. He thinks of the process, and by that I mean the process is to win at any cost. And I understand that's part of the political game, but at some point you also look at, well, what's best for either community or the public or the nation. So yeah, by hiring Jeff Rowe, I mean, in my personal opinion, that destroys Ted Cruz's
But by the same token, Gwen, could you not say that by hiring a very successful political strategist, he made a smart decision?
Well,
because Rowe is successful at what he does.
His objective is to win at any cost, and he hired Jeff Rowe, and they're like-minded people. I mean, Jeff is far to the right, so he'll be able to frame a message that Cruz will be pleased with. And Cruz is an obstructionist. He's everything that Mary said. So he and Jeff Rowe should really work well together.
So we would say the same thing about Paul Begala supporting Hillary. He's not a divisive guy, is he?
Well,
he's certainly right down the middle.
Steve, I think you made really good points, and when I'm thinking about it, that 6 years ago when Obama was running, hey, he was too far to the left. He has only 2 years in the Senate, all that kind of stuff, and yet he got elected.
Right.
All right.
Cruz will not get elected.
It is.
No.
Well, they said that about Barack Obama,
I said the same thing.
too.
Seriously. I said Obama had no
Hillary should
chance.
do something.
It is still time now for Roast and Toast, where the Ruckettes cheer or jeer people and events in the news. And we start tonight with Steve Marakian.
My roast is for the three stooges of diplomacy, Barack Obama, John Kerry, and Hillary Clinton, who through incompetence and policy of appeasement have systematically dismantled the American foreign policy in both Europe and the Middle East and are now threatening the security of Israel. Hitler promised Chamberlain, we will have peace. He then promptly invaded Czechoslovakia and Poland. Putin promised, we will have peace. He then promptly invaded Ukraine. Iran says, we want nuclear power for peace. We say, sure, just don't bomb Israel or us. Appeasing tyrants never works. Willful failure to oppose evil is the greatest evil of all.
Well, this is Yale's last show with the Ruckettes, and I think it's appropriate that I give a toast to Yale after his umpteenth show debating the hot topics in politics, as he said in his on his Twitter account. But, it's been great spending this time with you, even though we most often don't agree. But what I do say is I appreciate and respect the intellect that you bring to the discourse and the fact that we can duke it out and then walk out of here having pleasant conversation and being great colleagues.
Well said, Gwen. Yesterday, the city of Kansas City, many people were very shocked to find out that one of our great citizens had passed away. Steve Metzler was for many people the finest supporter of the arts, of human rights, of young people wanting to enter politics with a progressive message. He was the person during the AIDS crisis, for example, who was the most generous in helping to start all manner of community responses to that crisis. If you want to go on Facebook, there are just wonderful tributes to him. Mine consists in quoting a wonderful citizen who said, "Because we knew you, we have been changed for good." I know that I count myself among those people. He was a great, kind, good man, and God.
Yale, we're down to a minute. Can you take it?
I think on my final show, two very short toasts. Thanks for all the panelists I've worked with, but especially Mike and Woody and Mary and Gwen. Steve, I love seeing you too. And finally, also to the people who watched the show for many years and will continue to watch it. KCPT is an invaluable asset to Kansas City, and it's a toast to viewers, a toast to having shows like this, Week in Review, local shows that are really good that look at local issues. Thank you.
I toasted you last week. Get the videotape and check it out. But I will say thank you very much. Sure. It's been a real pleasure working with you. And we'll continue to read your columns and talk about the topics you bring up here on Ruckus. Sure. That's going to do it for this week. Thank you very much for joining us. Back next Thursday at 7. Now, on behalf of the Ruckettes and the crew, Mike Shannon saying thanks very much for watching and good night.